Hello everybody and welcome back to F1 22 with me, Dan, and the Slothz team as we get on to round 7 today in Austria, approaching the halfway point, which will be out later this week, and that will be France again. But now though, we'll focus on the job at hand, looking through the R&D upgrades. What can we get for the factories? It's going to be fabrication for the powertrain, which later will turn out to be a big mistake. And here we can see where we sit in the performance very briefly. We'll come back to that in a moment and move on to the Grand Prix practice. And so it's once again over to practice to grab as many resource points as we can before we run out of time. Now the difference being that this time we've got 2 practice sessions as opposed to 3, because we've got a sprint race at the Red Bull Ring, which is the first that we've had in this season at least, and caught me slightly by surprise. I'm not entirely sure if there's any more coming up. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I've gotten as far as Singapore, and I think I'm about to do Japan. I've not seen another one yet. There might be one in Brazil, thinking about it, but I'm not sure. I never actually raced beyond Belgium when I did this in Season 1 because I was so fed up with coming last all the time. So we'll have to find out. Anyway, here we go. Practice 2, getting some more points in. We've done qualified by this point. Now it's over to the performance graph. One last time, you can see we're just above Williams and Aston Martin, but not far behind Haas and AlphaTauri here. Anyway, on with the race, I guess. And we're straight onto the grid order for this, for the sprint race. We've got Lando Norris. He's alongside Charles Leclerc on the front row, and behind them we have Fernando Alonso up there once again alongside George Russell. Behind them we have Carlos Sainz. He's alongside the other Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. Then we have Max Verstappen. He lines up alongside me on the penultimate row of the top 10. Behind us, Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon, who made it all the way up there again. Then we have his teammate Lance Stroll. He's alongside Yuki Tsunoda in the lead AlphaTauri. Followed by Alex Albon in P13 alongside Daniel Ricciardo in the Alfa Romeo. The 2 Haas drivers, Oscar Piastri and Kevin Magnussen, line up 15th and 16th. Behind them, Robert Schwartzman and Mick Schumacher. And then on the penultimate row of the grid, we have Pierre Gasly, our teammate Théo Pourchaire, and finally, you guessed it, it's Zhou Guanyu and Nicholas Latifi. Right, well, we're going to get underway with the sprint race. I didn't mention earlier, there is no audio because I somehow managed to get 3 races into this recording session without noticing, so you're probably hearing some music over the top of me right now. That is intentional as we squeeze our way up the inside of Max Verstappen through turn 1 as we get underway. It's a 6-lap race, so we're not going to be getting up too far here. Lando Norris pulling away quite nicely at the start. Max Verstappen now tries to go around the outside. Sergio Perez down the inside. That was a costly mistake for Perez there. He's now battling with his teammate after some contact and probably smashing up the underfloor as he went over the sausage curb there. We managed to get away from this unscathed. Somehow Sergio Perez, I say, is ahead of his teammate. They're still side by side. Later on in the race, Max Verstappen is ahead of Perez now, and we are gaining on this little group ahead of us containing Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz. And then the 2 Mercedes up ahead with a great run out of turn 2. On the Ferrari, we're going to go to the outside towards the hairpins, weaving all over the place now as we come through here. Go round the outside and try and hang on there, but it's not happening. Or is it, as we come round towards turn 4? Down the inside of the Ferrari we go. I just noticed as well we've got white wheel covers for some reason. I think that's because of a mod. Regardless, it's very off-putting. Specifically, when trying to commentate over it as we come through ahead of Carlos Sainz. We're already on lap 2, so he might get the DRS on us in a second, and we'll have to try and defend from that. We already have to go defensive as we come towards turn 1, and then Carlos Sainz there trying to go around the outsiders. He didn't quite get the move. We rejoin on lap 4. Approaching lap 5, Carlos Sainz is going to have another popper as we have a massive moment there coming out of the final corner. Carlos Sainz with DRS, he's going to go to the outside into turn 1. He is slightly ahead of us as he turns in. He does lock up, goes very wide there, and now Max Verstappen has to take avoidant action to try and get past him without crashing into him and sending him into the shadow realm. Verstappen takes P7, Carlos Sainz losing out quite substantially there. As we rejoin on the final lap of the sprint race, Max Verstappen has caught up quite substantially here and is sniffing around at our behind, which is both perverted but also very scary as we come through here. I don't think he's going to get much of an opportunity to get revenge for us overtaking him at the start, but he will be looking forward to the actual race, given that he'll have somewhat of a home advantage for his team, and so will Perez for that matter. There's that little group crossing the line with Russell in the lead, and then we complete the race. P6. Lando Norris picks up driver of the day for the race, and here are the final results for that race. We'll come back to this in a minute, but this will be the starting order of the main event, which is coming up in just a second. Well, here we are then, on to the official round 7 of our Season 2 Championship in Austria, with all of the pomp and circumstance going on behind these graphics. And there we go, Spielberg, Austria. Now, this is a circuit that, as you saw, we weren't too shabby at over a 6-lap sprint. We'll see how we get on with the full Grand Prix. Anyway, don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell as well, so you know when the halfway point rant is uploaded. It should actually be out sometime this Thursday. Anyway, onto the starting grid now for the official event. Lando Norris retains P1 ahead of the lead Ferrari Charles Leclerc. Then we have the 2 Mercedes lining up on the second row, George Russell, then Lewis Hamilton. Then we line up behind, alongside Fernando Alonso on the third row, followed by Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz, who managed to stay inside the top 10 after that lockup. Then Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon once again. Behind them, we have Lance Stroll yet again, but now he's joined by Alex Albon, who moved up a position, followed by Kevin Magnussen alongside Yuki Tsunoda. The Haas drivers no longer together. Piastri sits P15. He's alongside Daniel Ricciardo in the Alfa Romeo, followed by Robert Schwartzman and our teammate Théo Pourchaire. On the penultimate row of the grid, we have Nicholas Latifi, who miraculously overtook somebody, and Pierre Gasly. And finally, it's the Aston Martins of Mick Schumacher and Zhou Guanyu. Well, here we go then for another race with music over the top of it. Only 2 more to go after this one, and then I realised the mistake that I've made and punish myself accordingly. As we come down towards turn 1, Verstappen has a great run compared to us down there, but there's actually a bit of clustering going on at turn 1, and we managed to get ahead of Fernando Alonso, now moving up into P5 behind the 2 Mercedes. We could have another run at them here into the first or second corner, as we tried to before, and it's not going to be. Fernando Alonso tries to go around the outside of us as we ride aboard now down towards turn 3. You can see the proximity arrow. Fernando Alonso is having a little sniff back there for an opportunity to try and get through. Lewis Hamilton, though, not conceded 4th place, at least at this stage of the Grand Prix anyway. Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc already beginning to slowly but surely pull ahead out of this group. Notice as well, Fernando Alonso also on the soft tyre here, the 2 Mercedes on the medium, as is Max Verstappen, and I believe the front runners are as well. You can see immediately that our car is quick, but it's not as quick as them on the mediums. As Fernando Alonso, after a quick look behind, tries for another attempt up the inside, and well, he failed. We cut him off, and Max Verstappen has now taken his position away from him, which is probably a worse thing to have chasing us down towards the checkered flag, ultimately. Lewis Hamilton slowly but surely pulling away from us as we make a slight mistake as going through turn 2. Max Verstappen goes to the outside. He's going to have a look. We're going to squeeze him out and stop him from getting past us. Funnily enough, Fernando Alonso actually just gets past him again. So Alonso is now behind us, trying to get past. We are dropping back quite substantially now, and we're only 2 laps in, partially because our car isn't very quick, and partially because we're being constantly harassed from behind as Fernando Alonso now goes up the inside into the penultimate corner. We're not going to be able to hang it around the outside there and stay with him. We're going to have to concede the position as behind us, Max Verstappen is going to be gearing up for an attempt, but we get DRS this time. What are we going to do with this opportunity? I wonder. We should be quicker than the McLaren in a straight line, as we are pretty much faster than everyone in a straight line at the moment, as we look to the outside of Fernando Alonso coming down towards the hairpin. He's got a good run through that corner, actually, does Fernando Alonso, but we managed to pull away on the exit. Just about stay ahead of him there as we retain P5. Although he's going to have another look down the inside into the hairpin at the other end of the straight. And he's going to slip up the inside. And I think he's actually got that one there. Or has he? As Max Verstappen actually tries to go around the outside of us now. Dropping positions like flies we are. As Max Verstappen makes a very brave, daring attempt to get past us. Giving him plenty of room, of course. And a slight wink. As he then slides up the inside of us into the penultimate corner of the curb there, offering no traction whatsoever, as it actually turns out we have a bit of oversteer going on as well with the car, as now Esteban Ocon disaster strikes as he now tries to get past us, as we run around the outside of turn 1, just about stay ahead of him. Definitely not going to allow an Alpine to get past us as well. I can quite happily settle for Alonso Verstappen, though, on this occasion at least. Unfortunately, at this stage, they are pulling away. They are almost 1 second ahead of me already. And we rejoin the action on lap 6 now, as Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon duel away behind us. A slight bit of oversteer there from our car, allowing Esteban Ocon now to have a look down the outside. Up the hill we go. And he's quite comfortably got ahead there, which is a bit disappointing. Some slight issues occurring with the car at this stage of the season. It turns out that actually investing in the chassis department to get it up to spec 2 would have been a much smarter idea than buying that fabrication upgrade for the power unit at the start of the video, and I come to regret that for the next few races, it turns out, as we mess around in the bottom half of the top 10 with Esteban Ocon and Carlos Sainz, who for some reason is just absolutely shockingly terrible compared to his teammate right now, as we come into the pit lane for our one and only stop, at least one and only planned stops. Actually, the Ferrari, is that for the Ferrari? No, that'll be the McLaren of Lando Norris is in as well for his stop, so he is actually challenging for the lead as his pit crew phased in and out of existence. No issues with the stop, and we're away and in dead last at this point. We rejoin on lap 12, 2/3 of the way through the race. We've actually got Carlos Sainz still behind us, Sergio Perez still behind us as well. Esteban Ocon somehow managed to lose 2 positions during the pit window. Not entirely sure how, but he did. Carlos Sainz is going to have another attempt to get past us. He is using the hard tyre. God only knows why, but he's got them on, and there's the result of that. As we get the DRS, immediately cut to the right and get past him. We actually have the fastest lap, incredibly, which I'm not entirely sure how I managed to do that, but we did it. And Carlos Sainz will get another run at us down towards this hairpin. He's not quite close enough for an attempt this time, but we do run quite wide there. No, we've managed to save it, and you can see the tyre situation isn't amazing, but it isn't terribly bad either. We've just got to be a little bit more lenient with how fast I come into these corners so that I don't go flying off into the shadow realm every time we try and turn the steering wheel. Max Verstappen quite comfortably ahead. We shouldn't threaten him at all before the end of the race. So now our focus is directly on what's going on behind us. And what is going on behind us is Carlos Sainz is getting quite big in our rear view mirror, as yet again we go around the outside at turn 1 and cut back across him and get the position back. Again, Carlos Sainz clearly not learned from his mistakes and is clearly just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. As long as we can get to the finish line before him on the final lap, then we can just continue to repeat this for another 5 laps and not worry about a thing. Although he is going to try around the outside here at the hairpin. There's a yellow flag. That isn't for Carlos Sainz. That is for another car which is stopped at the same part of the circuit. We should see who that was in just a second. It's Alex Albon, who actually had dropped out of the top 10 by this point anyway. So who really cares what was going on there? And Sainz a little bit further back, but you can see the split time. He's gaining rapidly. We take a massive chunk of curb there to try and carry as much speed through there as possible. It's not really helped. Carlos Sainz is still right behind us, and he is going to try once again. Unfortunately for us, we were ahead at the DRS zone, which means that he is going to have the DRS, and we are going to have to use up a nice chunk of our battery to get past him. And whilst all this is going on, Sergio Perez has come up behind us, and we've had a massive lock up there as we go through the hairpin. Suspiciously, Sergio Perez takes our position and drives off with not a scratch on him. We'll have to have a look at the replay of that one as we try and regain some positions. Round the outside of Esteban Ocon we go. This isn't going to be an easy overtake, certainly, as he holds the position. And then we manage to get him back here. Slipping up the inside, is still not giving up. There we go, we squeeze him out. Ocon, again, used the hard tyres, so although he's got fresher compounds on, we should be able to do pretty well. This was Perez, and unfortunately with no audio we can't verify whether he did crash into us, but it does look very suspicious that when he hit the brakes there and suddenly slowed down whilst very close to the back of our car, and how we suddenly disappeared off of the end of the circuit with a massive lockup, which I had not done at all through any point of the weekend. Anyway, regardless, on we must go with the final lap of the race, chasing down these two, the disgusting Sergio Perez after that move that he may or may not have attempted to ram us off the circuit earlier, and then Carlos Sainz, who has spent literally 2 races at this circuit trying to overtake us, finally managed it as a result of Sergio Perez giving him a helping hand. And unfortunately, with those 2 DRS zones gone and us still being 6 tenths back from the Red Bull, unless one of them decides to blow up at the finish line, this is going to be our finishing position. A disappointing result, considering that we qualified much higher up than this. And, well, as I mentioned earlier, the chassis department is in real need of upgrades, and this is the first indicator of such a fact, as we cross the line, pulling a spin for the crowd there. P9, nice 2 points. I believe we lost the fastest lap in the end, as it tends to be on this game, but we did get driver of the day at the very least, as the Ferrari pit crew lean over the pit boards and shout profanities at us. Charles Leclerc manages the best. Lando Norris, he picks up the trophy for the win and celebrates with his team. George Russell there in the background, joining him on the podium as the Ferrari team celebrate yet another win for their team, although it is slightly lacking in appearances from Carlos Sainz. We'll have to wait and see if he can pull anything off. Anyway, that's all for now. Let's get on with the race results. And here we are with the final results. This is the combined results of the weekend. Charles Leclerc picks up 32 points ahead of Lando Norris, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, and ourselves, with Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon also scoring. Over the Drivers' Championship, Fernando Alonso retains his lead at the top of the table, ahead of Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, May, Lewis Hamilton, and Esteban Ocon round out the top 10. Further down the order, we have Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, Nicolas Latifi, Oscar Piastri, and Daniel Ricciardo round at the point scorers, followed by Robert Schwartzman, Kevin Magnussen, Théo Pourchaire, Zhou Guanyu, and Mick Schumacher. Finally, over in the Constructors, McLaren retain their position at the top of the table ahead of Red Bull and Ferrari. Then we have Mercedes, Slothz, Alpine, AlphaTauri, Williams, Alfa Romeo, Haas, and then Aston Martin. That's all for now. We'll catch you, brands.